actually just got back from my trip from Arizona. I have some stuff coming out. In my trip in Arizona, I pretty much just gathered with some friends and we went out to different places. It was pretty much for us to get together and have fun. I took plenty of pictures, plenty of videos. Well, today we're gonna be focusing on the photos. You guys always see me inspecting photos, looking at the nitty gritty, this, comparing this to that. But in this video, I wanna actually take you guys through the process of how I edit my photos. So yes, this is the raw photo. This is the photo straight out the camera. I just adjusted the aspect ratio to 2:1. 2:1 is great, but only for specific photos. This one is pretty much nice already, but you know, there's gonna always be some adjustments that we can do. First thing that I always like to do is whenever I tend to take pictures, the highlights tend to be super blown out. So let's go ahead and lower them. Sorry, I'm just laughing because it just did completely nothing to the sky. Usually it'll bring it down. You'll be able to see like some clouds or whatever. That will be in a perfect world, but this is better if anything. Running into more issues so you guys know how to handle it. So I can teach you guys how to go through it. Any significant differences that the highlights made, adjusting them down, is the car. You can see that this area on the car here, where the light is hitting it the most, comes down a little bit so we can see more of the car, and of course, yeah, everything up here is less bright. We're gonna leave that for now. There's a whole lot of stuff we're gonna want to dive into, masking and all that stuff, but we're just gonna stay here in the basic settings. The picture kind of looks contrasty already, has like enough contrast. If I was to raise it any more, then it'll kind of look over contrasted, whatever you want to say. So we're just gonna leave it to about right here, and shadows look okay. I don't see too much, but we're just gonna adjust it a little bit to get more contrast, just like a tiny bit. Most of the stuff you have to play around with it to see where you like it. I recommend going through each setting, just seeing what difference it makes. That's what a lot of people do. I usually tend to lower the whites because most of my images tend to be super bright. Some of them. Black seem to be okay, adding more contrast and everything below it in the basic settings is just messing with the contrast, to be so honest. I'm not sure if anybody told you that. All right, so going down to curves, you probably heard people saying that curves is amazing, is so great, and it kind of actually is. I didn't get this. The real thing that you kind of want to mess with the most when you're coming into curves is the midtones. Midtones can either make or break your image. So pretty much, yes, what you would do in the curves, you would just make points. So of course, you're just like looking at a regular histogram. These two parts are like the highlights and the whites. In the middle is the midtones, and all of these parts are like the blacks and the shadows. Edit those as you will. You make points so you can move the line in different ways. So for example, I'm messing with the blacks right now, so I can lift it up or just make it like a true black. This will be messing with the shadows. So like I said, we're just gonna be messing around, like putting it right there. It's pretty much what you went over on the top portion, but this could like maneuver it even more. So like I said, midtones is where it's really at. This can either make or break your image. So I'm just gonna raise it up a bit more like that. As you can see, what it changed is like, why does this zoom in so much? My goodness. But yeah, as you can see, that's what it does. I don't really go into in depth to like edit the red channels, the blue, greens. I just don't. Maybe I'll get into it. I don't know. With the curves, like I said, yes, you have more. You're able to maneuver these things more, but it's like, okay, so for the highlights, like this part right here, this point right here would be editing the highlights. If I already move the highlights up here down to -100, and this is like, okay, like the picture's like, this is as far as I can go, so lowering the highlights. If you think you can change it on the curves, you may be wrong, okay? Because all that'll do to like, if I was to lower the highlights, that's what it would do. So in some situations, yes, you would be able to like maneuver even more, but we're just gonna go ahead and set that to about the same. There's nothing wrong with leaving something the same. Nothing wrong with it at all. We're gonna go in here to the white balance. Temperature is already kind of warm. It's giving off that like summer vibes already. So we're gonna raise it a bit more to give it more of like a summer-ish vibe. We can always go back and edit it even more. All right, so now coming down here, typically your greens in your photos, like bushes and everything, they're gonna more so come out as a yellow. What this color mixer does, it allows you to edit the colors, hue, saturation, and luminance. Now the hue is just pretty much changing the color itself around the color's range. So we're gonna take a look at like a color wheel. For example, yellows, you can change the yellows more to like an orange or more to like a green, or that's more like a red, because yellow is between orange and green. Color grading that's a reference to my previous video, Don't Stick to What You Know. I have been messing around with it a bit more recently. Every image I edited, I tried to incorporate some type of color grading. Now, it really just depends on your photo. If these, again, can either make or break your photo, because you think about it, you're messing with the color of your image. So, of course, down here, blending is, of course, how your images blend. If I didn't do anything to colors, but if I bring it all the way down, then that means the colors aren't gonna blend at all. Midtones, shadows, and highlights, the highlights aren't gonna blend that much to the midtones, and midtones aren't gonna blend that much to the shadows. They're just really gonna be its separate things without like combining or whatever. If you're bringing it all the way to the right, then they're gonna combine really well. They'll go and have a nice smooth transition. And then balance is like, would you want to prioritize the highlights or would you want to prioritize the shadows? Since we already messed with the temperature, it's kind of tricky here. But we do want to push more on that orangish. Already, that kind of like brings out the green up here a little bit in the mountains. Let's see if we could push that on more. Let's see if it registers this as green. Yeah, I think it does. Registers at green and yellow. As you can see, like the dots were right here when I did that, when I made changes to it. Typically with a real contrasty like photo, you would want to have like the blacks as blue. A lot of people, to have that cinematic feel, you'll want to push the blacks or the shadows as blue. But there is a lot of shadows in this image, a lot of black parts, a lot of shadowy parts. So that would do something to the image. As you can see, I already did something there. I think that looks good. Yeah, that looks good to me. I really like how the blues really pop out. Typically, I like to set the highlights the same as the midtones because you're editing the highlights. It's gonna do a lot. See, if I move it as like red or something, of course, it's gonna get the sky and everything. We're just gonna leave the highlights as they are. They don't really need to be changed all that too much. We're gonna make changes to like everything else later on. So we're gonna prioritize by pushing the balance to the right because middle is midtones, left is shadows, right is highlights. So we're gonna push them more to the right. I typically find myself pushing the balance all this to the left so they don't blend that much, because if they do blend, it's kind of like, you know, you're mushing the colors together. So I'm gonna push them more to the left. You don't see me using the effects too often, only for like creative photos or whatever. So first photo, we're done, completed. Does it look nice? What do you guys think? Put it up right here. Let me know if you will get like a poster with this photo. On to the next photo. Okay, so already we can see the clouds are out. We can actually see the sky. This is actually a different day than I took that last photo. This is actually at the Grand Canyon. This is like some area I've never been to. First thing we're gonna look at is, image looks nice already. We're gonna add a bit more contrast right here. I find myself not messing with contrast too much lately. I've been editing a lot of photos on Lightroom recently as well. So it's like realizing that saturation isn't everything and boosting it isn't everything. The highlights are actually really good already. We don't want to bring it to the point too low to the point where it's like you're bringing down the luminance of it. So we're gonna actually keep it down to like right there. By the way, luminance means like brightness, pretty much, I'm pretty sure. So here are the shadows, most of the shadows right there. Everything you edit can determine the feel of your image. So we're actually going to adjust the aspect ratio to 2:1. That's always what I do when I want to make the picture wider or whatever. By the way, the image was originally in 3:2. 3:2 is the original sensor size. So you think about the shape of the sensor. I didn't get that first as well. That's why I'm telling this to you. Because a sensor is like, you know, it's like a square rectangle-ish almost. So when you do 3:2, you're using the full sensor size. When you do things like 16:9, it's actually like cutting down. So like your image is being cropped down so it can get that 16:9. When you do stuff like 1:1 or something, the sides are coming in, it's cropping in. So that's why 3:2 is your original sensor size. You're using the full sensor when you shoot 3:2. You're not cropping. So I'm telling you that because like, yeah, I used to shoot 16:9 because I like, this is what everything is in. Everything is in 16:9, but then I realized it's like you're not using the full sensor size. It's completely up to you though. By all means, go for it. There's a lot of people that uses it creatively and to their advantage. Okay, so we did 2:1. So let's move the shadows a bit like that. I'm just waiting to get to the curves, but I want to edit this in stages. Whites, let's lower that a bit too. Whites can either be very big or very subtle, and also with blacks too. So we're gonna move that in a little bit. Move the mid-tones up a bit, because usually when you move it down, it just kind of makes it look ugly. Mid-tones can really do a lot to your image. Temperature, usually for me, temperature, I like to, whatever like the temperature was out there, I'll move it to blue. So if it feels really cold out there, then I'll probably move it down to the blue side. If it feels warm out there, or just like maybe the feel of the image. Warmer means happier, summertime, you know, everything's joyous. Blue is like more sad, dreadful, cold. So usually with my pictures, I would like to convey that message. I like the kind of neutrality of all this, but we're gonna move it a bit more to the warmer look because I enjoy the warmer look. Maybe edit the saturation of the greens so we can get a bit more green. And then here's where the yellows are gonna affect everything. Except if we raise the yellow, because yellows are everywhere when you're shooting landscapes, or at least out here in Arizona. We're gonna raise it a bit up. That looks good. And then color grading, I'm not sure, because if we move the blue shadows to blues, because that's like everywhere as well, we can always make it kind of subtle, but then again, it's like, I guess we can probably settle on that. Midtones, again, push it more towards like the orangish. And then highlights, I'm more so digging with, let's leave it here. Now let's dive into the masking again. Masking is important. This is where you can add character to your image. Give the masking. So let's see if we can detect the subject. I would prefer it to be the house or this big structure right there. Clearly the subject. Couldn't find the subject. I'm not sure if I want to go there and like edit it. What we are gonna do is get the sky. Actually, let's boost the blues a bit. I kind of like that. Down here it's looking like, okay, I guess we are gonna have to create our own subject because we'll bring down the exposure for the mask so I can see what I am getting. So moving to the side, I'm just simply holding spacebar and clicking and dragging so I can go to where I want. We outlined the house. Now it's time to reset the exposure so it looks normal. Now we're gonna raise the contrast of that. We're gonna like edit, make changes to the subject so the subject can really stand out. We're gonna boost the exposure a bit, raise the highlights, kind of make it a bit brighter, but not too much where we're pushing the exposure, because when you push the exposure, that's like raising the ISO on raw images. So if you push the exposure too much, it's gonna start to kind of look grainy. We just gotta make this like kind of set apart from the whole rest of the image. So we're gonna make it more defined, maybe more contrasty, make the shadows deeper and the blacks darker and everything. Again, messing with the midtones. Really enjoy messing with the midtones. Now, if we were to duplicate and invert the mask, that'll select everything but what we outlined, but our subject. And as you can see, we missed some more stuff. So we're gonna bring the exposure down for everything else there. And then we're gonna kind of take out the sky. We're gonna take out the sky because we're not gonna darken the sky because the sky is supposed to be natural. Yes, we're gonna keep the sky. And this is already the sky. So now we're looking a bit better than what we already had. This is the original image. This is what we have now. On top of that, with masking, you also have the ability to mess with light a little bit as well. So we're gonna also go to radial gradient. The radial gradient is amazing. You can use that for anything. And we're just gonna take a look and take a dive into like actuality. Where's the sun coming from? So the sun is actually, we can also see the shadows too. So I guess the sun was like on this side over there, because it's brighter on that left corner than this right corner. So we can see the sun is actually from that corner. We're gonna pretend like there's like a beam from the sun going on our subject. And bring that down, and then we're gonna make you bigger. And then we're actually gonna turn you around. We're gonna bring you out, and then we're gonna squish you in. We're gonna bring you over here. And then we're gonna stretch you out just a bit. And then now we're going to reset everything else because it doesn't like to reset on its own. And we're gonna raise the exposure just a little bit. Now we get that subtle look that the sun is beaming down onto our subject. We're gonna make another duplicate of this mask of the subject. We're gonna duplicate that, and then we're actually just gonna take away this whole left side of it and just gonna focus on these parts over here. So yeah, now it's only focusing on here. So what we're gonna do over here, since the sun is shining that way, I'm gonna reset this, and we're gonna like move the shadows up a bit. Yeah, so it's like, because it's like the sun's coming from that way, let's make it look like it's coming from that way at all different angles. I'm also gonna use raising the shadows because we don't want to deepen the darks because we're getting light on it. So there shouldn't be too much shadows. And yeah, just like that. I think we're just about done with the masking. For color, we're just about good. I guess we're gonna push the yellows up a bit. You can always mess with that however you guys think will look good. Pushed up just by 5, and yeah. There's our image. There's plenty more images that I would like to go over with you guys, but I don't want this video to be too long. Kind of like a little course thing for you guys to learn from. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment if you think my tutorials are doing well for you. I hope you learned something from this. I'm gonna go work on some more photos and some more stuff for you guys to see.